Good evening, dear souls. Tonight, I bring you something a little different. If you enjoy bedtime tales that echo through the ages, stay with me a while. And if you find comfort in these nightly journeys, leave a like and do consider subscribing. It helps this little corner of stories grow. Tonight's tale is one you may know, the story of Romeo and Juliet. But I shall tell it in a way most have forgotten in the spirit, the rhythm, and the language that once flowed from Shakespeare's own quill. So, close your eyes, let the world fade, and prepare for a timeless tragedy, softly retold. This is a story about Romeo and Juliet. In fair Verona, where we lay our scene, the sun shineth upon marble streets, bloodied oft by ancient hate. Two households, both alike in dignity, yet bound by enmity sworn and deep-rooted, did daily draw steel for naught but pride and memory. Lo, the Capulets and Montagues, cursed in their contention, brought strife not only to themselves, but to the very breath of the city. From forth the fatal loins of these foes sprang a pair of star-crossed lovers, whose misadventured piteous overthrows buried their parents' rage in their tombs. Yet ere their tale unfoldeth toward its tragic end, let us turn back to lighter times, when hearts were young and fate unspoken. It was a day like any other, the air full of golden dust, and Lord Capulet's house made ready a mask, a feast for noble guests. Meanwhile, in the house of Montague, young Romeo, whose countenance bore the pallor of lovesickness, paced in shadows and sighed in verse. Alas, quoth he, Rosaline knoweth not the flame she hath kindled. My heart burneth, and she heedeth it not. His cousin Benvolio, mild and full of mirth, did chide him gently. Come, Romeo, turn thine eye to other maidens. Beauty aboundeth, and thou art not bound to one who loveth thee not. But Romeo's heart was stubborn, and his gaze yet lingered on one who would not smile in return. Yet destiny, with secret hand, had already unpenned a page new writ. For that very eve, Lord Capulet's house would open wide, and there would Juliet, his only daughter, first be seen of Romeo's eye. She, a maid of barely 14 summers, knew not yet love nor longing, though dreams did whisper at her ear in sleep. Her nurse, a matron of coarse tongue but gentle heart, did prattle oft of marriage and suitors. But Juliet cared not for such things. My child, saith Lady Capulet, Paris, a man of wax, doth seek thy hand. Wilt thou but look upon him with favor? Juliet answered with obedience, yet not with heart. I'll look to like, if looking, liking move. And so the stage was set, the stars in motion, and the clock wound tight with fate. Romeo, persuaded by Benvolio and the jesting Mercutio, agreed at last to steal into the Capulets' mask, masked and merry, saying, I'll go but to rejoice in my sorrow, and behold the stars that shame the moon. Thus, with hearts both light and heavy, they donned disguises and crossed the threshold of forbidden walls, unaware that in so doing they walked the path not of joy, but of sorrow, clothed in beauty's guise. The halls of Capulet's house were decked with lanterns like stars hung low, and music flowed as wine among the guests, both noble and merry. Juliet, clad in silks of twilight hue, moved like a dream through dancing throngs, her eyes wide with wonder yet unaware that fate drew near with each beat of the drum. Romeo, masked and cloaked, stepped within, and at once his heart, erstwhile heavy with Rosaline's absence, grew still as though the world had hushed to whisper her name. For across the room stood Juliet, and to him she shone brighter than torches ablaze, a jewel upon an Ethiop's ear, a dove among crows. "What lady's that?" quoth he. His soul stirred like leaves in sudden wind. And thus did he approach, bold in enchantment, drawn not by will but by destiny's string. He took her hand, and the touch was fire clothed in snow. "If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine," saith he, "my lips, two blushing pilgrims, stand ready to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss." Juliet, in wonder and delight veiled beneath courtesy, replied, "Good pilgrim, thou dost wrong thy hand too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this. For saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss." Their words danced like candle flame, and ere long their lips did meet, sealing a bond unseen by all but the stars. But even as joy bloomed, shadow crept. Tybalt, kinsman to Juliet, did spy Romeo's face beneath the mask, and his blood, hot with feud, boiled anew. "What? A Montague here," saith he, "a foe amidst our feast?" Yet Lord Capulet, in temperate mood, restrained him, saying, "Let him be. Verona speaks well of him, and he doth no wrong tonight." Tybalt, though bridled, did swear vengeance to come. Romeo, ignorant of this growing storm, parted from Juliet with heart alight, but not before learning from her nurse the truth that chilled him to the core. Her mother is the lady of the house, and she a Capulet. Thus spoke the nurse, and Romeo's joy fell like a star from heaven. "My life is my foe's debt," quoth he, struck with cruel irony. And Juliet, too, upon asking her nurse the stranger's name, was answered thus, "His name is Romeo and a Montague, the only son of your great enemy." Then Juliet, pale with love newly born and already cursed, whispered into the dark, "My only love sprung from my only hate, too early seen unknown and known too late." So both did part, bound not by promise nor pledge, but by the unseen thread of love sealed in a single night, as Verona slept, unknowing of the tale that now unfoldeth like a rose, sweet and sorrowful alike. Night's veil had scarcely lifted ere Romeo, restless with love's fever, stole away from kinsman and climbed o'er orchard walls to seek again the light that had bewitched his soul. Beneath Capulet's garden window he hid, his heart beating like a drum in silence. And lo, there appeared Juliet upon her balcony, bathed in moon's silver grace, unaware that any ear did catch her breath, or any eye beheld her beauty. "O Romeo, Romeo," she cried into the night, "wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet." Her words fell like petals, unknowing they reached his very soul, Then Romeo, unable to remain still, stepped forth and answered, I take thee at thy word. Call me but love, and I'll be new Baptist. Henceforth I never will be Romeo. Thus in that hallowed hour their hearts did bind themselves, not by priest nor parent, but by truth unvarnished and passion unfeigned. Juliet, startled yet rapt with joy, questioned how he came, and Romeo answered, With love's light wings did I o'erperch these walls, for stony limits cannot hold love out, and what love can do that dares love attempt? She feared for his safety, for if her kinsman found him there, blood would surely be his price. Yet he, enraptured and bold, feared not death but absence. They exchanged vows as pure as prayer, their speech trembling like dew upon rose petals, each word sanctified by desire and sealed by trust. Juliet, though young, spoke with wisdom spun of the heart. If that thy bent of love be honorable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow. Thus they parted not in sorrow, but in solemn joy, with promise hanging in the air like incense. Romeo departed as dawn crept o'er the hills, seeking none other than Friar Lawrence, a man of cloth and herb, whose counsel mingled heaven with earth. To him Romeo poured forth the tale of love struck swift and deep. The friar, much amazed at this new turn of heart, for he had known Romeo's sighs for Rosaline mere days before, did marvel and chide. Holy Saint Francis, what a change is here! Is Rosaline so soon forsaken? Yet, seeing in Romeo's eyes the earnest flame of true affection, he at last agreed to wed them, saying, This alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancor to pure love. Meanwhile, Juliet sent her nurse with secret haste to learn of Romeo's word. The nurse, full of sighs and weary bones, returned with joyful tidings and breathless laughter, that ere the sun set, her lady would be wed in friar's cell. Juliet, her soul aflame, made haste to meet her love, and beneath the gaze of heaven in humble chapel, their hands were joined and their lips sanctified by prayer. Thus did they, so young, so hopeful, steal a moment of bliss amidst a world not ready to grant them peace. Joy had but scarce settled in their hearts when fate, ever cruel in her swiftness, did set her snare. For as Romeo returned from holy bond, his step light with love and soul free as summer wind, he came upon Mercutio and Benvolio upon the streets of Verona. Their jesting, full of wit and mockery, soon turned grim, for there came Tybalt, hot-blooded and proud, his sword already sharp with hatred. Romeo, he cried, thou art a villain. But Romeo, now kin by marriage, though none yet knew it, bowed not in anger, but in peace. I do protest, quoth he, I never injured thee, but love thee better than thou canst devise, till thou shalt know the reason of my love. Yet such words did stoke the fire in Mercutio, who, unable to bear insult, nor understand Romeo's gentle turn, drew steel and challenged Tybalt to duel. O calm, dishonorable, vile submission, he cried, and with blade bare clashed like thunder with Capulet's kin. Romeo, striving to part them, did step between, but in that moment of misstep, Tybalt's sword found Mercutio's side. "I am hurt," said he, and though he japed as if all were sport, soon did blood speak truth. "A plague of both your houses," he cried with final breath, cursing Montague and Capulet alike, for their feud had slain him. Romeo, shaken with grief and fury untempered, did cast aside mercy, and call out Tybalt anew. "This day's black fate on more days doth depend," he said. "This but begins the woe others must end." Their swords sang death, and ere long Tybalt fell, his breath gone and vengeance served. Yet, with this act, Romeo knew himself undone, for in slaying Juliet's cousin, he had stained the joy of wedlock with blood. Benvolio urged him flee, and thus he vanished into Verona's alleys as cries rose from every street. Soon came the prince, and with him justice cold and swift. Witnesses spoke, and though Tybalt had begun the quarrel, the law could not pardon Romeo's hand. "Let Romeo hence in haste," said the prince, "else when he's found that hour is his last. Exile is his sentence." Thus banished, Romeo became as one already dead, for to be torn from Juliet was to breathe without soul. Meanwhile in Capulet's house, Juliet, unknowing of Tybalt's fate or Romeo's doom, did wait with heart full of longing, but her nurse, pale and breathless, came with tidings mixed and dire. "He's dead! He's dead! He's dead!" she cried, and Juliet, struck with horror, believed her love slain. Yet when truth was wrung from the nurse's lips, and she learned 'twas Tybalt dead and Romeo banished, her grief became a tempest. "O serpent heart hid with a flowering face," she wailed, torn between love and blood. But love, true and deep, did conquer, and she cried, "Shall I speak ill of him that is my husband? Ah, poor my lord, what tongue shall smooth thy name, when I, thy 3 hours' wife, have mangled it?" And so, even in despair, she cleaved to him, for their bond was beyond feud and forged in secret fire. Night fell heavy o'er Verona, and in Friar Lawrence's cell sat Romeo, cast down in shadow, his cheek wet with sorrow, his hands wrung with guilt. "Banished?" he cried. "Be merciful, say death, for exile hath no limit save the world, and there is no world without Verona walls but purgatory, torture, hell itself." The friar, patient though troubled, did chide his despair. "Thou fond madman, hear me a little speak. A pack of blessings light upon thy back, thy Juliet lives. There art thou happy. Tybalt would kill thee, but thou slewest Tybalt. The law that threatened death becomes thy friend and turns it to exile." But Romeo, deaf to comfort, would not lift his heart until there came knocking sudden and loud. The nurse, sent by Juliet, entered breathless with weeping news. She brought word of Juliet's sorrow, how her mistress did weep for both cousin and husband in one breath, her love torn and yet steadfast. At her words Romeo did rise, hope flickering like a candle. "Spakest thou of Juliet? How is it with her? Doth she not think me an old murderer?" But the nurse, ever bold of tongue, scolded him roundly. Stand up, Stand, and you be a man. For Juliet's sake, for her dear sake, rise and go to her. Thus kindled, Romeo took heart, and, guided by the friar, did steal away to Juliet's chamber, under cover of night, where love, though wounded, burned bright. There in the hush of darkness they met once more. Lips joined in mourning and joy alike. Their parting was as the lark and nightingale's quarrel, each sound a dagger, each look a farewell. Wilt thou be gone? Said Juliet, clinging to the hours. It is not yet near day. But the dawn crept in as all things do, and Romeo, pressed by fate, did depart ere light betrayed him. I'll say yon gray is not the morning's eye, said he, and she, with heartbreaking, whispered, Oh, think'st thou we shall ever meet again? Romeo answered with solemn grace, I doubt it not, and all these woes shall serve for sweet discourses in our time to come. Thus did he vanish, like dream from her side, and Juliet stood lone at her window, her eyes red with love and dread. But ere her tears could dry, new sorrow came wrapped in velvet speech. Lady Capulet entered, thinking to cheer her child with talk of marriage. Marry, my child, early next Thursday morn, the gallant Paris shall make thee a joyful bride. At this, Juliet's blood did freeze, for how could she marry another, while Romeo yet lived in her soul? I will not marry yet, quoth she, and when I do, I swear it shall be Romeo, whom you know I hate, rather than Paris. Her father, Lord Capulet, stormed at her defiance, his temper wild as thunder. Hang thee, young baggage, disobedient wretch, get thee to church a Thursday, or never after look me in the face. Her mother turned cold, the nurse helpless, and Juliet, cast down, fled to Friar Lawrence, her only counsel in a world fast closing round her. There she knelt and cried, If all else fail, myself have power to die. At Friar Lawrence's cell knelt Juliet, pale as lily newly bruised by storm, her hands clenched in plea, her eyes red from salt of sorrow. O holy man, she cried, if in thy wisdom thou canst give no remedy, bid me leap rather from the battlements, or hide me nightly in a charnel house, or covered with dead men's rattling bones. The friar, moved by her resolve, and fearing the haste of Capulet's command, devised a stratagem bold and desperate. Take thou this vial, said he, and when next thou liest in thy chamber, drink it off. Within shall run a cold and drowsy humor. No pulse shall keep his native progress. No warmth, no breath shall testify thou livest. For 42 hours shalt thou lie in death-like slumber, and when thou wakest, Romeo shall be by thy side, to bear thee hence to Mantua. Juliet, grasping hope as drowning hands to rope, took the potion, and with vow of courage returned to her father's hall. There, to all astonishment, she knelt in seeming penitence, and spake thus, Pardon, I beseech you, henceforth I am ever ruled by you. Bid me marry Paris. Capulet, overjoyed and swift in preparation, advanced the wedding day to Wednesday morn, not knowing what lay beneath her words. That night Juliet stood alone, the vial in her hand, doubt and dread whispering round her like unseen ghosts. What if it be a poison? Quoth she. Or what if I wake before the time that Romeo come to redeem me? Her mind conjured horrors, a tomb of corpses, a vault filled with spirits shrieking in death, Tybalt's blood-stained form beside her, yet love conquered fear. And with one final breath she cried, Romeo, I come, this do I drink to thee, and swallowed the draught. When dawn arose, and the nurse came to wake her, laughter turned to wailing. Alack the day, she's dead, she's dead, she's dead, rang through Capulet's house like funeral bell. Lamentation swelled like storm, and all joy was turned to mourning. Paris, arriving with bridal joy, found a bier instead of a bride, and Friar Lawrence, though silent of the truth, urged all to bear her to the family tomb. Meanwhile, in Mantua, Romeo, exiled and far from the breath of his love, sat hopeful, till his servant Balthazar arrived with news that shattered heaven itself. Her body sleeps in Capel's monument, said he, and her immortal part with angels lives. Romeo's face grew pale, his soul cleft in twain. Is it e'en so? He murmured, and in silence did resolve what none could unmake. Well, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight, he whispered, and made haste to seek an apothecary, lean of face and poor in purse, who kept vile potions 'gainst the law. Let me have a dram of poison, Romeo spake, such soon-speeding gear as will disperse itself through all the veins, that the life-weary taker may fall dead. The man, though fearing death, did grant it for gold, and Romeo took it with hands as steady as doom itself, saying, Come, cordial, and not poison, go with me to Juliet's grave, for there must I use thee. Night's black cloak did shroud the heavens as Romeo came alone to Verona's silent bounds, his heart heavy yet resolute, bearing with him the poison that should unbind him from this world. Before the tomb of Capulet he stood, and there encountered Paris, who came to mourn his would-be bride with flowers in hand, and sorrow writ upon his brow. Stop thy unhallowed toil, vile Montague, quoth Paris, thinking Romeo come to do dishonor to the dead. Romeo, gentle at first, answered, Put not another sin upon my head by urging me to fury. I come to do no harm, but to lie with Juliet. Yet Paris, spurred by grief and honor, drew his sword, and Romeo, driven by fate's cruel design, did fight and slay him. As Paris fell, he gasped, If thou be merciful, open the tomb and lay me with Juliet. Romeo, struck by his foe's love, bore his body within, and thus stood amidst the cold silence of the dead. There she lay, Juliet, as fair in death as in life, her cheeks with color yet, her lips unpaled, as though sleep held her close. O my love, my wife, quoth Romeo, falling beside her, death that hath sucked the honey of thy breath hath had no power yet upon thy beauty. He kissed her cold lips, with tears like rain upon her still skin, and drew forth the poison. Here's to my love, he said, and drank the fatal draught, swift as lightning through his veins. Thus, with a kiss, I die, he whispered, and fell, still and silent. But lo, scarce had his soul fled when Juliet awoke, the potion's spell now broken, and light returned to her eyes. "Where is my Romeo?" she asked, but found no voice to answer. Then, seeing him lifeless at her side, she beheld the cup and guessed its use. "O churl, drunk all and left no friendly drop to help me after?" She kissed his lips, hoping some poison yet lingered, but finding none, she took his dagger, still warm with fate, and cried, "O happy dagger, this is thy sheath! There rust, and let me die." And with that she fell upon her love and breathed her last. Thus were two lovers divided by hate, united in death. Their blood watered the soil of peace, and their tale, writ in sorrow, bore fruit of reconciliation. For soon came Friar Lawrence, trembling and broken, and with him the prince and Lords Capulet and Montague, drawn by the cries of horror. The friar confessed all the secret marriage, the plan, the potion, and the desperate end. The parents, stricken and shamefaced, wept o'er the bodies of their children, now cold in the arms of one another. "See what a scourge is laid upon your hate," said the prince. "That heaven finds means to kill your joys with love." Montague promised to raise a golden statue of Juliet, and Capulet the same for Romeo, so that Verona might remember what their enmity had wrought. And so ends the tale, not in joy, but in solemn peace, with hearts broken yet wiser, and a silence that speaks louder than the sword. Now silence lieth over Verona, and the stars look down as mourners eternal, their light soft and pale as memory. The tale is ended, yet its echo lingereth like a lute's last note in some forgotten hall. The lovers, Romeo and Juliet, though young and brief in breath, did leave a mark no time may erase. In marble and gold their visages were cast, not for pride, but for penance, that none who passed might forget what love can suffer when hate endureth. The Montagues and Capulets, broken and bare, did clasp hands over the grave, their swords turned into plowshares by the weight of their sorrow. Never more did feud or fire rise between their names, for they had buried not only their children, but the folly of their rage. And Friar Lawrence, though heavy in guilt, did walk no more in fear, but in prayer, that heaven, which allowed such loss, might grant peace to all hearts that beat in secret. As for the prince, he spake one final word ere the city slept. Some shall be pardoned, and some punished, for never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. Thus let us leave them, these two spirits twined beyond the veil, where time holdeth no grief, and every kiss is timeless. Let thy heart be still, gentle listener, for though sorrow walk beside them, their love was never in vain. If thou knowest love, then thou knowest them, and if thy soul hath ever wept in silence, then thou art kin to their tale. Now close thine eyes, for the night is deep, and dreams do gather in the hush. Let them bear thee gently where the world doth not wound, and let the stars above, kind and eternal, watch o'er thy sleep as they once did watch o'er two hearts brave and doomed. Good night, sweet soul, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.